Welcome everyone. Enjoy the music.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Alison Wybrow, and I'm a co-founder of the Climate Coaching Alliance. And on behalf of the Climate Coaching Alliance, I would really like to welcome this session today. The session is Speaking as Nature, animating a circle of all nations approach in coaching practice. Welcome.
You are now invited to light your candle. Then sit quietly, place your feet on the floor, close your eyes, begin to breathe gently. If you wish, turn off your video. Greetings from the lands of the original peoples of what we know as Australia, Africa, Europe, Russia, China, Greenland, and the Americas. These lands are the ancestral traditional territories, mostly inhabited by settlers now, and I have walked them for lifetimes. Take a breath. Breathe in deeply. Exhale deeply. Center in circle. Breathe in deeply. Exhale deeply. Register still point. Breathe in deeply. Exhale deeply. Now what? I have a story to share. I am a turtle. I am a very ancient soul living in water sources across these continents. And I also live on land. I walk very, very slowly, my feet one with the earth. I have walked across the land and water sources we now call Mother Earth. Her energy feeds me. I come from my ancestors who have inhabited this land before me. In the Americas, I have land named after me, Turtle Island. I continue to be revered by my peoples in the lineage of my ancestors and live in the hearts and minds of many. I am a living being. I am in the hearts and minds of not only people, but all beings. Beings equate with spirit. All my relations are people and all beings, animals, trees, rivers, insects, plants, and the beauty scene, all that you are able to see around you. Are you able to see the natural and seasonal cycles that emerge in this world, in the land, relations that develop, the movement of the sky and all it contains? Breathe in deeply, deeper than before. Exhale deeply. As I walk slowly on the land, I contemplate what the land holds of stories. Living beings include rocks who are one with me, rocks who speak to me, rocks who reach me with their spirit and provide energy and show me how I can be strong, no matter what tries to wear me down. This strength found in rocks is a strength found in ourselves. One is nature, one is rock, our foundation, and for me, the makeup of my shell, a protective force. Take a breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Recognize a source of strength inside you, a source of life and of spirit. Breathe in, breathe out. How do you know me? I move slowly in a world of increasing speed. Can you remember your first memory of the turtle? Visualize it. It might be through a children's story that has origins from long ago. The tortoise and the hare were being patient with one another, moving slowly, allowing for space, taking time for compassion and grace. These, all teachings from the land, brought you to where you wanted to be. We learn from the story. Those who separated themselves from another being saw themselves on a higher platform, separate from nature, and then are surprised by the outcome. The teachings of the land prevailed. I'm curious, how does this story show up for you? In my deep listening, I have been tending to the land. I have become aware that words that I have available to me are limited, and I am learning the language of my ancestors that respects and places me one with nature. My ancestors were forbidden to speak their languages and practice in their rituals for such a long time. You may know the stories of injustice to our peoples, forced settlement, schooling away from home, conversion of communal lands, our life source, all of that to private property, restriction in our beliefs, dredging in rivers of streams, which are my life source for water. Take a breath, breathe in deeply, deeper than before, deeply. I am Ki, a living being. With all other beings who are one with the land, I am known as kin. Visualize the world around you. I am kin with the life you see, the vitalness in our world. I am perplexed that one would want to take my lands away, separate me from my family, and take me away. Tapping into yourself. How do you recognize a living being within you, being one with nature? Is there something stopping you from being one with nature? Allow yourself, give yourself permission to query how this feels like inside your body. As I walk these lands, I have sensed for a long time that there are those who would like to own me, one with and kin with nature. Imagine that. Can you see that I am not one to own? For a long time, I have been seen as inanimate by you, referenced as the program it in the English language. Are you aware that in the English language, all that I am kin with are known as objects, as the pronoun that references them is inanimate, one such as its? Imagine our ancestral trees with mycelium and networks being perceived as inanimate. Once upon a time, we were respected. We were referenced by our names and the lands where we came from. The settlers changed that. The settlers came and took our lands and labeled my ancestors, and in turn I, as an it, a non-living thing. Is it possible for you to see that I am a living being that is unable to be owned, that I am one with nature? Take a breath, breathe in, breathe out. As I walk across the land, I listen to the voices, deeply listen. I can see what is real, one with nature, care and compassion. That is interwoven within an ecosystem, mycelium very present, roots holding the rim for circle in form, brings ebbs and flows of energy and relations, is life's interconnectedness. The regeneration of life, live and vibrant with reciprocity, rippling and thriving with a promise and an infinite sustainable form. I also see what is designed in linear form, a linear form that shows up in many fences, walls, borders, creation that leads to destruction, like separation from place and the ecological crisis, where the teachings of my ancestors have long been forgotten. As you listen deeply to what is resonating inside you, is it possible to see that I am kin? Could you and I be kin if we learn to walk together to discover what this land, reciprocity, cycles of life, and nature have to bring? How might this show up for you in commitment today, this month, and in your lifetime? Take a breath. Breathe in deeply. Exhale deeply. Enter circle. Breathe in deeply. Exhale deeply. Register still point. Breathe in deeply. Exhale deeply. Now what? Take your time. Open your eyes gently. Open the circle. You are invited to write into the chat where you are from, to the land you are on, and your location, and anything you have to offer. Whew. So welcome everyone. We are now transitioning into our sacred fireside chat, and we will begin with introductions. I believe we have a presentation slide coming up.
Are we doing introductions, Janet?
Yeah, I think we have a. Do we have a presentation slide? Do we?
Or we just speak? I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Your screen is blank, Lydia.
Yeah.
Can you see the presentation?
No, but it might take a few seconds. If you want, I can try. With,
Okay, I have it. I have it up. I will do it right away.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Janet.
So good morning, everyone. As we move into this section, we wanted to present to you the flow for the day. So we've just come from our presencing meditation. We will be moving into a fireside chat. We will then be entering into a reflection discussion through breakout rooms. You will have time to share. We will have a debrief with a focus of what's mine to do. And we will move into personal commitment before closing our sacred fire circle. So let's move into introductions. So Lydia, why don't you begin?
Sure. Shall we stop sharing and then we can see everyone to say hi? Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know for some of you it was difficult to find the link and everything, but welcome and really happy to be one of your co-hosts. I'm Lydia. I know a few of you, and I'm just very pleased to see so many smiley faces and candles. I'm handing to others to introduce them, just the co-hosts. Are we going to say hello? Janet?
Hi, I'm Janet, and I'm here in the ancestral territory of the Algonquin people, Ottawa, Canada. I've been a member of CCA since I think I found Allison and Eve in July, August of last year. And it's been a wonder to collaborate with the team that's putting together this today. And I'm so grateful and honored that you are joining us in this conversation this morning. So I hand the talking stick to Romola.
Good morning. I too am joining you from Ottawa, from Canada, and from the Algonquin territory of many, many people, but including also our very special elder, Grandfather William Commander, who guides our Circle of All Nations work. And consistent actually with him lighting a fire at the pre-Rio conference in Paris in 1991, 30 years ago. I'm really very grateful to be part of this gathering of Climate Coaching Alliance. And thank you very much, Janet, for inviting me to join you guys. I'm really, really happy to be able to share a little bit of the ongoing prayer and work of Grandfather William Commander for Mother Earth and all her relations. And thank you for that beautiful evocation of Spirit of Turtle. We're sitting in Turtle Island, what Indigenous peoples knew, how they knew it, but they knew that this is how this continent looks, like the body of turtle. And we're hoping that more and more folk will connect with the energy of the land and its creatures. I'm Romola, originally from South Africa, but I'm not African. I'm Indian, but I'm not a native North American Indian. I'm Canadian, and sometimes I kind of like wonder what it means to be Canadian in Grandfather William Commander's land. But integrating all our identities and realizing right now with global communications, with the COVID crisis linking us all, it's really an important time for us to get together with ourselves, with each other, and with Mother Earth. I'm glad to be joining you guys with this presentation this morning. Thank you.
Paula.
Thank you very much, Janet and everyone. I'm Paola. I'm from Italy. I'm based in Milan, and I'm a passionate lover of our Mother Earth since I was a little child. I've joined the CCA, I think, Janet, Allison, it was around February or March last year. And I'm very happy to be here with you all. Thank you.
Allison.
Hi, I am truly grateful for the opportunity to look after some of the space here. I'm from southern England, from just south of London, and I guess I am rediscovering and reawakening, and I think I'll be remembering my love for Mother Earth for the rest of my life. That I'm always curious, playful, and always likes to see how others might inspire me and how I might inspire them. So I grew up in a very hilly part of open spaces, big hills, and I spent a lot of time walking in the north of England as a child, and I really miss that. But that wide open space, spaciousness and possibility stays with me, and I think I bring that into who I am, and I bring that into this community. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. So for today's session, we have a number of coaching questions that we're bringing to your consideration. Coaching one with nature. The questions that we have are, how do we frame our coaching conversations? How does our own culture and use of language underpin how we ask questions and how we relate to our clients? How does circle show up in our life? This being circle dialogue, this being circular form, this being recognition of circle within ecosystems, within the various levels that we see in the web of life. How can we build on examples from framing and language used from Indigenous cultures, especially in relation to racial harmony and deep and close relationship to nature? So with that, we are opening the fireside chat, and the conversation will take place with Lydia, myself, and Romola from Circle of All Nations. And the question that we have, that we will be working with, is what brings you into this space. So we will put that in the chat. What is it that brings you into the space? And so that all of you are invited to observe, reflect, and provide insight, sharing your response in the chat if you are able, as we undergo and we participate in this conversation. So the question to consider and reflect upon is, what is it that brings you into this space? So I will ask Lydia to begin with fireside chat. What is it that brings you into this space?
I want to just raise my talking stick, and that means I'm speaking, and in the space of Circle with Janet and Romola, I'm very grateful to meeting Janet on the CCA general meeting one Monday about a month ago, and she and I were talking about who we are as coaches and our trusted partnership and who we are learning from and listening to. And I said, I'm listening to my client. And Janet said, I listen to Mother Earth and I listen to Indigenous wisdom. And in that session, we were being invited to co-host around the world for the 24-hour conversation. So I said, Janet, let's do a co-hosted session on Indigenous wisdom. And then she reached out to Romola, and that's where we came together. And then we brought Paola along, who's helping us today, and Alison jumped on as also to be part of this wonderful event, and all of you joined us. So everyone here, I'm here from, my background is geography, and then I worked for many years in international development, traveling the world. And I really love nature, and I really love Indigenous wisdom, and I'm learning all the time. So it's about being part of something bigger than ourselves, connecting with ourselves and connecting with nature. And that's who I am. I'm handing now to the talking stick to Romola.
Hello, thank you very much. And as I was saying to Alison a few minutes earlier, traditionally the talking stick for Indigenous peoples has been the feather. And Grandfather Commander left me this feather and the sage, sacred herb, which invites people to come together with good hearts and good minds to join and bring their best thoughts forward. And he liked to use a feather and brush it against his lips so that he was speaking really with the spirit energy of his ancestors and of the land. And so that only good words that he'd want to share with people would be part of a session. And I'm honored to join you. And I actually did want to share the sage now because it seems to me it's a perpetuation of the energy of his work. I came to Canada 50 years ago and worked, you know, in the criminal justice system, worked for the federal government, and then worked on Indigenous justice issues. And it was when I did that that I understood my history in South Africa much better and understood the circumstances of the Indigenous peoples of North America. Met Grandfather Commander in 1997, and then I realized as I took him to many meetings that he always, irrespective of the meeting, whether it was about childcare, whether it was about justice, whether it was about education, he actually talked always first about Mother Earth. And then I began to understand that that was the critical element without which any of our efforts in any of the other spheres wouldn't work. It's taken quite a few years for the rest of us to understand that this has been a prayer of Indigenous peoples, this awakening to the voice of Mother Earth for so many years. We heard that regularly at the gatherings that William Commander hosted. And, you know, now it seemed like they were talking prophetically about 100 years into the future or way into the future, but actually the future has arrived. And I think it's really wonderful for me to be a part of your climate coaching alliance and experience today, because beyond the people who are engaged in environmental issues, you are reaching out to all the people you coach. And if you take the message of Mother Earth first, you too will be reinforcing what Grandfather Commander inspired in me. And that brought me then to quitting the federal government, quitting work and justice, and actually supporting his Circle of All Nations, his Culture of Peace work. And that's what I continue to do. I'm a student really right now. I went back to school to research him in geography, to actually plant him on his land. And in this process, I've learned that the knowledge streams of the Indigenous, of the grassroots people and the people I worked with in prisons, the people I worked with in government, the people I work with in the academic world and the NGO organizations really have different pieces of a story, and we need to bring all the knowledge and all the wisdom together to move forward into the reality that we all jointly face. And I'd say one more thing. I found that, you know, the telecommunications of this age are enabling that equalization of voices. We actually do most of our our Circle of All Nations work on social media. And we're so grateful to be part of sharing this message wider than we could have before. So thank you for inviting me. Great to be here.
Yeah, great, Romola. I would just like to give a few points. I'm cognizant of time, so I won't, I'll limit to what I'm going to say about myself. I have, why am I here? I would say it's emergence. Somehow the various pieces of my life are coming together and it feels just right. The way of circle, Indigenous traditions, wisdom, and how to support others in safe containers as I dive in to discover new ways. Environmental activism is part of my life since my teens, all kinds of stuff in my life. I became interested in coaching in 2007 as I became a volunteer client for a now master integral coach, and I am now a professional integral coach. My journey with coaching has been merging over the last 4 years. I found the CCA, as I said, in July, August. And today, due to emergence and coaching conversations, you see the result, the opportunity to collaborate here with Lydia and Romola, having collaborated with Allison and Eve Turner, who's in our audience today in a supervision course, where the voice of nature, speaking as nature, actually was supported in a space, and so it came to be. So welcome to today's conversation. So Romola, we will move into your section. We have 10 minutes for the teaching of a circle of all nations. And so I will bring up the making sure that I have the first circle on the screen so that we can move forward with that. Okay, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Janet, and thank you all our colleagues there for the great introduction and the great opening for the session. And thank you also for sending out so much of information about this in advance. So many of our participants will already have seen the image of a grandfather William Commander. And we created that image, a student actually created that image for in acknowledgement of his November birthday. And you will have noted there that we have a geocosmic prayer. And it reflects really the great respect that Grandfather Commander inspired in so many of us for the cosmic world, for the key elements, for the cardinal directions, for the spirit of Mother Earth, the waters, and that energy is what has inspired all our Circle of All Nations work. And in the early stages, then we looked to how we could articulate this. And this became, the medicine wheel image became one way that we could share the thinkings of a Grandfather Commander and actually people of many other cultures, but with a diversity of people too. So, you know, the circle image, the Mandela image is an important one to many cultures. And, this version is just our Circle of All version attempt to show the linkages with Mother Earth, which then feed into our activities and our way of being and way of doing. So in this first slide, you see how we've conceptualized the cardinal directions, associated them with colors that are reflective to us of the energies, and then associated them further with the key aspects of human life. So you see, we move then in a circular way around our medicine wheel. But you have to also imagine that our medicine wheel is always spinning as a spiral. And because it's reflecting the geocosmic world, it's almost like the spiral of the Milky Way that moves and engages us as we learn to follow its path. Now, in terms of the Grandfather William Commander, I guess you can only see the slide, but not me, hey? So I'll leave that a little later, I'll show you that. We move really from-
Romola, we can see you, so if you
wish. Can you? Okay.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, I'm wanting to show you then this medicine wheel that Grandfather would often take to teaching sessions, you know. It's a sweet grass braid around a piece of birch bark with the symbol of a strawberry. Strawberry is the heartberry to Indigenous peoples. So we use our minds but we trust our hearts in all our engagements. And we tied on the ribbons of the 4 symbolic colors to link them then for us with the notion of the beginning, the early morning, the vision, the early stages of an activity. We move then to the manifestation of, the maturity of the midday, the heat, the warmth, the energy. And there we reflect the color of physicality, the red. We go then into a zone of reflection, of thinking, of going within, and we associate that with the dark. And then we come forward with the reflections that we've refined, and we see them as the wisdom. So in a circular kind of way, we move from the east to the south, to the west, and to the north. And that's quite different from how I grew up, grew up in South Africa, and I always dissected everything. I thought about north, south, east, west. But through the indigenous, I began to understand how to reconcile understanding directions with that circular motion, which is the motion of life. Okay, so we can move then to developing this vision, of how we do our work, how we guide all our activities to an elaboration. So perhaps you can take us to the next slide, Janet. And here now, you'll see how I draw out of the initial thread the range of activities, range of energies that we associate with each of those zones. So if we go back to it again, we see the critically important part of our work is the vision planning section. So we spend a lot of time determining really a mix of intent and cause. So the intent is really like a deliberate intention of a type of work, a type of way of being that we want to see happen. It could be around a project, it could be around a lifestyle. So we spend a lot of time thinking about that. And that becomes then our cause. And in that place of visioning and planning, we spend a lot of energy determining that. Then we look in the place of action to how we manifest that intention, how we manifest the cause. And there we're engaged with people, with activities, with the implementation of work to move our efforts further. Then we go into a zone of reflection. And this is where we really do sort of like the quality control, the healing, the smoothing off of things that may have worked well or not so well, look at refining, look at strengthening. And so that really is a very, very important part of our efforts to then lead to the presentation of a wiser project, a wiser answer, a wiser outcome. And that we oftentimes reflect either in images or in text, in writings, the next level of activity. And then we move back into the next level, a deeper level of that process. So we pretty well applied that approach with small and little initiatives and projects and our way of being. And you'll see here then in this image, I'm associating also the medicine wheel with the 4 key elements. So the elements of fire, the passion of the first light, the first awakening, the enlightenment zone, comes with the envisioning. The passion of the earth, the physicality, we associate with the action zone. The symbol of water for us then becomes the zone of reflection, of the deep thinking, the deep analysis. And the symbol of air is the spreading of the ideas. So we associate all our work really with the energies of Mother Earth, and we trust that she will guide us. I have introduced quite formally into our discussions the energy of spirit, because that has really been a critically important one for Grandfather Commander. And we want to always say that we don't mean that to be a notion of religion. We think about the human being as having the aspect of emotions, of physical body, sensory development, the spiritual dimension, the intuitive dimension, the sixth sense dimension, the one that is connected with something larger than us, and the mental capacities. And we see that in our medicine wheel, we need to constantly integrate all these energies to do our work. So that in essence is what that's about. Yeah. Is that it for the timing then, Janet?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Romola, thank you so much for sharing the medicine wheel with us. And I really, really respect and am grateful to that wisdom, because actually in our cognitive background and often our cognitive life, we don't actually give time for spirit and for the elements and how to bring that into who we are as people and into our work. And I don't have any offering for you, but maybe a daffodil, which is actually the symbol of Wales for Tanya as well.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Thank you.
We're very grateful. So I wanted to move us into reflection, and actually that is beautiful because you've given us the space for reflection in the night, in the darkness and in the water and in the black, but also in our work as coaches, we can actually move into breakout rooms and have time together in a circle. So every breakout room is, you can be in your own circle with talking sticks to say who's speaking when. And if you have time to reflect on the same question, which we as the co-hosts will also be reflecting on today, what does this mean for us as coaches, the coaching profession as a whole, and for our clients? So really thinking about that wisdom that Romola shared with us today, how you can bring that into your work and how you can make this inner wisdom a part of the dialogue you have with your clients potentially. So we're actually going to assign 12 minutes to the breakout rooms because we don't have very long. And they're going to be automatically assigned. So Paula is going to do that automatic assigning, I hope. I can't even see her, but maybe.
Yes, everything is ready. Just let me know that you want me to bring people into the breakouts.
May I just say a word about the talking stick before we move into that? And it'll be a quick word. You know, I grew up at school learning about debating, but it was with the indigenous people that I learned about the talking stick and the talking circle. And I found it was a tool to give us all the right and the responsibility to share. And I hope this will guide the discussions. Thank you.
So we'll see you back here, and you should be automatically assigned by Paula. Thank you.
Yeah, we do not go into a room. We can.
So we don't go into.
We stay here.
Okay.
So David and Volker have to be, yeah, there. Yeah.
Great.
Volker is still with us, so this person should be assigned. Hello, Volker. There.
Perfect.
Great. So now we go into the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, what does this mean for us as coaches, coaching profession, and our clients? So I know, Paula, we hadn't, you're with us. And so we'd like you to participate in this conversation, given that you're a coach. So this actually is a bonus for those who will watch the recording, because while everybody else is in the breakout rooms, we're going to have our party conversation, our first one. So Lydia, what do you think? Why don't you begin?
I will begin because I was really taken by this tool that we learned from Romola when we were in previous discussions. And I loved the idea of trying it out before we had our little discussion today. So I actually tried it with a client. And I was in a walking in nature discussion on the phone, and my client was also in nature. And we stood and we faced east, we faced the sun, and we had the wonderful experience of having the sun on our face. And then we were looking at the challenge that she was facing in her, coaching conversation. She brought a challenge, and we discussed it, and we got the energy from the sun, and we really had a lightness in our step when we were doing that. And then we turned to the next direction, which was south, and we went through the medicine wheel. So it was really lovely, but I couldn't quite remember the medicine wheel. And now that I've heard it again, it's really useful to work over time to embed this different thinking. I love the fact it's a very energy-based, cosmic-based idea. So I'm very, very grateful. So what it means is that we can use it as one of our practical tools and look at the way we do this from my perspective.
Who are you asking to speak next, Lydia?
I think anyone can speak who wants.
You give the talking stick. We're in a circle.
I could just show you this, which is Grandfather Commander with our Circle of All Nations t-shirt. And I don't know if you can see well enough the logo.
Mm-hmm.
That's our Circle of All Nations logo. And you'll see it has the conceptual ideas of our medicine wheel. So we're constantly reminded of that cycle of vision, planning, action, reflection, and articulation of wisdom. And we take that same theme. So here you see another model, and this was for a vision for a healing center. And emerging from the center comes the kinds of energies and activities in the place that again follow the lines of the conceptual medicine wheel pattern. And I like to say too, I went back to school really so that I could leave a record of the thinking of Grandfather Commander. And I organized my thesis around our logo and around the medicine wheel concept. So it serves us for small and big things all the time. Yeah.
Paola.
Yes, thank you. Such conversation is so much enriching, and thank you so much, Romola, to share with us all of this. I do believe that we should all, let's say in the Western world, we should all need to learn more about, the indigenous culture all over the world, because there's a deep, authentic connection, with Mother Nature since the very beginning. And you still have this while, the Western world has lost it. So I do hope that we can all, as coaches, learn more about your own culture, about all indigenous culture, and support ourselves and our clients to get closer to Mother Earth. Thank you so much.
So for me, Lydia.
Yeah. The breakout rooms are going for longer. I wanted to let you know that.
Hi, Karen. So
I'm afraid my breakout room buddy lost connectivity, so he's gone.
Yeah. Okay. Also, the breakout rooms, we need to make them shorter because they went for 20 minutes, I think.
No. It was 10 minutes. They started at the 4:04. So until P4 plus 2 minutes. But if you want me, I can just send the 2 minutes right now.
Yeah, because they've got 13 minutes on the.
Extend 2 minutes so that I could actually share, please, in this conversation. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I just send the message about 2 minutes left.
Okay, so what comes up for me is more the body work involved in learnings about teachings of Indigenous wisdom. It's really about taking that time and space so that we can just be with the universe. I spent a lot of time walking through woods, and it took me a long time to go beyond the walking through woods and understanding how I can move from my head side of being with nature, my head and heart, and really working on the heart to move to somatics. So with my clients, I bring them through, I have already started using a circular form and through language, bring in, and through language, bring in different elements of the circle, of the medicine wheel. And so I offer that. And how we do that is where everyone is comfortable, inclusive of being with nature. But with COVID-19, it's a little bit difficult to get everybody out at the same time. Yeah.
Paula, I just want to clarify, I myself am not Indigenous. I met Grandfather Commander and many other Indigenous peoples. And I really became so involved in his Circle of All Nations work because it was such a bridge building work. So I see in a sense that what I'm trying to do is continue his effort to share important things with the rest of us. And we say we're very much involved in Indigenous wisdom, respect for Mother Earth, social justice, with the racial harmony and peace building, and this articulation. But in the end, in Grandfather Commander's work, it all comes down to two themes that contract into one. The two themes being environmental stewardship, respect for Mother Earth, and racial harmony and peace building. But in the end, we realize that you cannot really have peace without also attending to Mother Earth. And you can't be an environmental activist without forgetting the peace agenda. And so it really becomes a vision for a place for all of us on this earth. And really, like COVID was anticipated really by Indigenous prophecy. And it's a wake-up time really for us all to move together to creating like the new society if we possibly can. So Circle is a bridge building effort in that journey.
Thank you so much, Romola, for explaining, also about this. And people should be back in the main room in about 30 seconds, just to let you know.
That's great.
Thank
So
you.
it's been lovely to share amongst ourselves what this means for us as coaches, the coaching profession, and our clients. We've touched a lot on coaches, we've touched about our clients. Maybe we can just spend a few seconds thinking about what this means for the coaching profession.
Well, if it's specifically around the medicine wheel conceptual tool, I think we've just suggested the broad outlines, and I've tried to show you how we've modeled it in different ways. And I think if people spend some time on those images and let it work with them personally, then just like Lydia talked about it earlier, folk will find ways to work with their clients, to encourage their clients to use this approach. But because for us, as with the original image in our presentation, it's so geocosmic, it's so nature-based, that nature guides then all the activities that we engage in. So, you know, you may be planning a conference and you can put these principles to work. And you can be planning a walk in the woods and you can put these principles to work. So that is how I think it has enriched my life. And I'm a former federal government employee, lots of training in terms of project management and planning, strategic planning, and all of those kinds of things. But for me, it all contracts into this being the most useful mechanism. Simple, but it's grounded. And it's grounded because it's motional. And of course, the energy of movement. Grandfather Commander talked about himself as Mami Winini. We travel all the day. That nomad movement is there in all of us, that energy. And it's consistent with really the way the earth works. So
yes,
we have
so
to be
Romola, thank you for, she's making comments on, we're conversing about what does this mean for the coaching profession? And so you've caught the tail end. One bonus that you'll have that we've done and will be available to you is in the recording, you will have a conversation of us actually conversing about what this means for us as coaching, the coaching profession, and our clients. So you got a sneak preview of the end of that conversation. So when the recording comes out, you can look at it from the beginning. So welcome back. We're moving into a reflection experience on sharing. And at this time, you are invited to reflect and share a one-word response into the chat. So, and then we'll take some time to register the collective response. So if you can all take just a moment with one word, describe one word, what your experience was in the breakout rooms. Wow, I'm beginning to feel each word, and I will actually read them out. Reconnection, grounding, enlightening, kindness, curiosity, space, wisdom, inspirational, time, silence, beyond, and that linear is human-made. That's our collective sharing on the breakout rooms. Much appreciation. So we are now moving into, and I'll hand this over to Lydia and Romola for a 10-minute debrief, and they will provide the instructions.
Thank you, Janet. Still got my talking stick. So the subject of the global 24-hour conversation is what's mine to do. So we want to actually ask you to move from the reflections you've had to the action. And if we remember, there's a wheel on the CCA webpage, which is about moving from awareness and reflection into action. So using the indigenous inner wisdom that we've felt today and the nature wisdom with one with nature, how can we use that to bring our experience into our work, and what is mine to do? So we wanted anyone to speak if you want to, and to share in the chat really what action you might have after today as a result of this discussion. So feel free to open your mic and share. and ask us questions, please. If you want to ask Romola particularly questions, or questions of some extremely experienced coaches here, myself humbled by the people who are here with us today. So please feel free to open your mic and ask questions, and put your reflections and actions into the chat as well. Thank you.
While we're awaiting any questions from our colleagues out there, I could say, you know, we've become quite active in terms of using Facebook and live videos to share some of the key priorities of our work, and in this way engage public at large in what really needs to be everybody's business, worrying about Mother Earth, the climate, the environment. And so we've learned about people building water pumps for people in the desert in Asia. You know, people energizing water efforts here in Canada on the reserves. Students exploring the impact of environmental injustice in birth and things like that. So it's really like everybody needs to passionately engage in shifting things, and the sharing at every level is so critically important right now. Yeah, so, and I find like really like diverse people are so anxious to engage. Do we have any questions, Lydia?
Mm-hmm. Okay, if anyone wants to ask questions, please do so in the chat. I can't see any yet, but I'd like someone to reflect back to us what they felt from the breakout room maybe. And yes, Monica has a talking stick. Brilliant.
Thank you. Very touched by this session, and brought into a really sacred space, so thank you. I'm going to be actually talking to someone at 9 o'clock my time, so in an hour, about from the Deep Time Walk organization, and want to see how we can bring this experience to, I'm also involved in a foundation that serves disadvantaged youth, and so inner city kids, and how can we connect them to that and that experience of nature, and how we are just a flash in the pan in terms of the, you know, the time that the earth has existed, and bringing awareness around that. And it's making me think, I study anthropology, so it's making me think about, you know, how to bring in the seventh generation indigenous thinking around that. And perhaps when we go on the walks, perhaps we invite someone, an elder from around here, to join us. So, and we're actually connecting with somebody in Mexico, another coach, to see how we can do something simultaneously. So connecting the two extremities of North America, anyway, North and South. So I've loved being here, and thank you so much. I want to learn more about the circles of nations, and much to learn.
Monica, where are you from?
Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Quebec. Brilliant, brilliant.
Could I just mention the Donald Marshall Jr. Cultural Camp in Nova Scotia, where he initiated this, Monica, many years ago, to bring Mi'kmaq youth back to nature and to learn about the medicines, the plants, the eels, and things like that. And we have a video of his camp on one of our sites. Really, really powerful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Please, Karen.
Volker and I were talking in the breakout room, and he was talking from an executive coach point of view, the linear models that have been used within coaching historically, and how it was very difficult to go from that straight line, the linear line, to the circle. And many thanks also. I've really appreciated what I've learned today. A lot of wisdom. So thank you, Romola, in particular, for that. I just wonder, is there a way of marrying the two, the circular and the linear, or do we just have to break up the linear and get rid of it altogether?
You know, I think in the model, I try to translate some of that thinking into sort of like the linear language, because I'm a bureaucrat by training for too long. And it's taken me a long time to reconcile the benefits of some of that planning, leading to the leading to the action, the quality control, the reports and things like that. But I, you know, in the context of both Monica's question and yours, I'll have to say this. One time we had to protest a mega dump, Grandfather Commander and I. And I'm come from prisons, so I really didn't know anything about mega dumps, and I thought I ought to research it. He said, no, we're gonna get you a kayak. And I said, no, why would we be getting me a kayak? Well, he absolutely insisted, and he was a canoe builder. Actually, he built a canoe for Queen Margarita in Denmark. I don't know where you're from, but he's got Scandinavian links over there. Anyway, he bought me a kayak. And then I thought, well, what is this all about? How hard can it be? I was waiting for somebody to tell me what to do. I put one toe in the kayak and it flipped me into this froggy water. And then I spent the entire summer kayaking. And as I engaged more with the water, you know, every morning I was getting up earlier and earlier. And what I realized was I didn't really need to do so much of that research about mega dumps as let nature teach me. And by the end of the summer, I felt like my whole brain had been exfoliated. Nature had scrubbed it clean. I felt cleverer than ever. So it's really the direct connection that makes the difference. Then you put the linear thinking, then you put the other practices into place, but you're led by nature first. And that can happen with, you know, the squirrel in the backyard, the leaf that you draw and sketch and then get to know deeply. So there are multiple ways of accessing that nature. And I think that then becomes the opener, the doorway, the pathway in.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I know that without singling out, certain people on the call have got a huge amount of experience in this area as well. And I don't know if, you know, Roger or Fee would like to share anything around nature connection, because I know you're deeply, deeply immersed in this as well.
You want to go, Fee? You go. You start. You got the talking stick.
Roger and I sit about a mile apart from each other. I feel that at the heart of this work is connection. It's our deep connection within ourselves with all that there is. So linear or circular models have a place somewhere, but for me, this is all about deep interconnectedness. And for many of the clients that I work with, taking them into a narrative about nature is a challenge. So I can do it with my body and my presence by really coming deeply into connection with them and meeting them where they are with their time outdoors. And so I just lead it in a really prosaic way into an invitation to deepen that experience with no agenda except to be there and to fall into deeper connection.
And you know, the grandfather William Commander word is Gina We Daganuk. We're all connected, we're all interrelated with every energy and every element. And that's precisely the way in, hey? Was Roger also going to be saying something?
Yep. So I have my talking piece. It's a feather from Vancouver, actually, West Coast. My parents actually met in Algonquin National Park, so I have a connection with the land, although I grew up in the UK. Yeah, so I've been involved in the medicine wheel work for about 20 years, and I really get the depth of it. I mean, I suppose the conversation about the linear and the circular, there's a way into that through systemic thinking, systemic psychotherapy. I'm a systemic psychotherapist, and that's been mapped out quite clearly. So from an intellectual pathway, how you get from a linear to a circular. And I suppose my practice is about connecting people with nature. And one of the ways of doing that is through deep immersion wilderness experience, and also vision fast, the ritual solo time, which tends to, as you say, Romola, scrubs your brain, and you come out different. And then it takes a long time to figure out, what you're going to do with your scrubbed brain, really.
Yeah, it's so true. And I have a few students that I work with, and COVID, of course, has made life totally different for them. And they don't engage in, the parties at school anymore, and they don't see people. But I've been like trying to encourage them to draw, find a piece of birch bark, find a leaf, and draw it. And as they've engaged in that, some of them have found a way to connect with something, draw on their own creativity and talents, but also focus on something that draws them into the nature world. So sometimes it's simple steps that we can access, but of course, the whole idea of the medicine wheel is the energizing, the movement. And so it's so important to for there to be action to keep your medicine wheel spinning. So that is yeah, the critical thing, that everybody feels that energy, that they themselves animate. And yeah, so sometimes I think simple things like that, either looking at it or photographing it or drawing it, even if you can't go and have a great big wilderness experience, yeah, it's so important.
Thank you so much. I think we'll draw this session to a close now, but I think loads of people have a lot to say, and it's very, very rich, and there's a huge experience in the room. So thank you. And the chat also, Eve has posted something about Peter Hawkins, about his work on systemic, which is together with Eve, I should say, Eve and Peter together. And Alison also suggested there's other learning wheels, and we can combine lots of ideas together and make them into something rich and comprehensive in our work. So once again, to Romola, to bring us to this place, thank you so much. I'm handing back to Janet now.
Here is my talking stick. It is my little turtle on a black sand dollar. I'm wondering who in the room has actually seen a black sand dollar in their life. So if you are on the West Coast in Vancouver Island, in and around Campbell River, they have black sand dollars in Canada. I was so surprised. It was a year and a half now. I was there and on the beaches of El Salvador. So I've kept one for, I think almost 20 years now. So at this time, we're moving into the What's Mine. We're continuing with What's Mine to Do, but we are moving into the personal commitment. And so leaving this session, think about what has shown up for you for action. What do you commit to upon leaving this session in your coaching practice and in your life? And you're invited to register your action by writing it into the chat. So at this time, what do you commit to upon leaving this session in your coaching practice and in your life? Take a moment. What comes up for you? Where do you feel that? How does it show up? So take a moment to read what's coming into the chat and try to hold all of that. There are many new ideas. Each of us have shared our personal commitment that we are attempting to do, what's mine to do. And we may see other pieces, other offerings that we will be open to. And so as we go about our day, which pieces will resonate further with you? And how can our personal commitment expand in time and space? So at this time, Lydia, I'd ask that the music be introduced.
I wonder, will everyone have also identified where they're from?
Yes, Romola earlier this morning.
It's all down there. Okay, great.
I So we'll begin, and I believe the music will catch up with us as we go. You can put it down a little bit earlier. Perfect. So in closing, how we came to be this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are, connected to the teachings of Elder Chief William Commanda and his legacy held by the Circle of All Nations. We have come together, have formed a circle of sharing, learning, and are holding the circle edge strong. We have much appreciation for us being together, to be open to and being open to being centered within ourselves, to be open and to begin practice in deep connectedness within ourselves. Personal commitment. Change and transformation requires work at both personal and system levels. To consider, to receive, and to be open. Silence is part of this. We are in much gratitude for your presence today. At this time, I would ask Alison Wybrow to share with us.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you all. I'm so grateful for this session and thinking about the depth of connection that emerges through this practice. And I'm imagining us as vortexes of energy from our ancestors of 7 generations ago and beyond, through to the generations yet to come, of 7 generations, and just imagining what we might see ourselves become. We see ourselves in that kind of a dimension. It's been beautiful. Thank you, thank you, Romola. Thank you, Janet, and Lydia, Romola, and
Thank you, Alison. So for everyone, the use of 3 breaths is a way to introduce silence into the circle. And so, as I've introduced in the session, the practice of 3 breaths is part of my contribution and our contribution to holding the edge of the circle strong. So once more, inhale to center, exhale, inhale, register still point, exhale, inhale. Now what? Exhale. So at this point, I'd invite everybody first to mute themselves. And I would ask that you look into the eyes of everybody who is here, one at a time. So those who are actually have turned their videos off, if you can turn your videos on. So it's a gratitude presencing close exercise that we're introducing. Take time to look into the eyes of every person. I'm looking at Lydia right now. She may or may not know that I'm looking at her. And just take a moment to pause and have a word. You might have something that comes from you and say it in your way that you would. We will take time to go through everybody here in this session, and then we will take you through a final moment of gratitude. Begin. And although this is not planned, before I walk into our final moments of the session, I would also ask Eve Turner to give a few moments of gratitude, please.
In a way, I'd like to give the gratitude of just a moment of silence, just to breathe in the wonderful experience you've all had, and for us being together and to have this opportunity which isn't open to everyone. And I'm just mindful of that. I loved it when Romola said, we need to use our minds but engage our hearts. I think that's so important, isn't it? And I don't think any of us are going to forget about nature doing the training, but particularly our brain being exfoliated by nature. That is going to, I don't know about, I'm looking at everyone, that's going to stay with us forever, Ramona. What have you done to us? And that wonderful idea, that deep connection within ourselves, but also giving us ways to do that are simpler than kayaking, because I was worried for a moment that it might involve kayaking, but I've seen a few people have picked up that theme as well. So I just want to say thank you for holding this beautiful sacred space. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful.
So at this time, I would like everybody to show and demonstrate a little sign of gratitude in this way. And we're going to hold it for about 3-4 seconds. We're looking at, for some of us, possibly getting that one photo op moment. And at this time, as we move to close, it would be wonderful just to hear the music in the background again, as I ask everybody for the next couple minutes to show another offering. So Lydia, if you may. Hold a space. So you're invited to unmute yourself and then share verbally something of gratitude as we close. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have about another minute and a half.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Thanks.
Thank you.
Blessings to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
They want to dance, begin the flow.
That's the next session, karaoke with Mohammed.
Thank you, everybody, for being here with us today. Wonderful to see you here, Monica.
It's lovely to be here. Beautiful way to start the day. Thank you.
Hi, Volker. Thank you.
And Tanya.
Tanya, your blessing. Tanya.
Huge blessing. I didn't show you my talking stick.
Oh,
Welsh dragon. Lovely.
It was all about myths and legends. This. Janet, we must pick up our conversations about language and at some point.
yeah, very important. Very, very important.
Thank you so much.
So
That was
we
amazing.
just round
Bye,
out
guys.
Take care.
Enjoy
See
the
you
rest
in
of the day.
conversations later today.
Bye.
Thanks, Walker, for being here. And we can stop the recording.